We're glad to have you on Business Incorporated on Channels Television IMBC at Debayo. Coming up today, Uganda plans the IPO for new national airline, and South Africa's business confidence increases in July, plus Morocco accepts imports of American poultry products for the first time. Well, let's hit the markets right away, beginning from home here in Nigeria, where the all-share index is down 0.05% at midday. The South African index is trending higher at intraday with 0.6%, while Egypt was also 0.69% up at lunchtime. The Kenyan Bourse also finished today's session in positive territory. And in the Middle East, all the indices are bleeding at intraday except the Abu Dhabi index. Now, the Dubai index is down 0.08%, while in Qatar, the index was 0.12% lower at about midday Nigerian time. The Saudi Arabian index was also down 0.07%. And in Europe, stocks traded lower early today as investors kept a close eye on corporate earnings and trade tensions. Now, traders and market observers were also given a surprise from Elon Musk's Tesla on Tuesday after the firm's boss said he was considering taking it private at $420 a share. Let's cross over now to the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, where Conrad Busen is on ground to give us live updates from the markets. Hello, Conrad. Also, Tesla's CEO Elon Musk has tweeted about potentially taking the company off the stock market and turn it into a private company. What's the market reaction, and what do you make of the fact that he communicated this via Twitter?
Well, the market reaction has been enormous. The stock price of Tesla skyrocketed immediately after the tweet came out. On NASDAQ, the stock price gained 11% up until the trading of this share had to be halted on NASDAQ. Here in Europe, in Frankfurt, this Wednesday, the share price is still up about 4% compared to yesterday. Whether or not it was okay for Elon Musk to communicate this by Twitter is, of course, being discussed quite intensively on the trading floors. It wouldn't have. It's not illegal to use Twitter to inform the markets. What would have been illegal, though, is to use this communication channel to communicate false information in order to manipulate the stock price. And this is something that, of course, traders would like to know now. Whether or not Elon Musk really considers taking his company private is only for him to say. He's the only one who really knows what he's considering or not. But whether or not he really has the backing to have this buyback become a reality, this is something that it's very likely the American SEC, the supervisors, the Securities and Exchange Commission, will have a lot of questions, or at least a few questions, to Elon Musk. Because if he does not have the financial backing for such a move, one could construe the allegation of price manipulation here. And of course, the reason for this is obvious. The share has for a long time been under pressure from short sellers, and many traders believe that Elon Musk's intention here was not actually to communicate the plan to take his company private, but to give those short sellers a hard time, to manipulate the price higher in order to, make the bet that the short sellers have made ineffective. The intention would be okay, of course. Being bothered by short sellers is not nice for a company, but the way to do this via a false piece of information on Twitter would not be okay.
Now let's talk about Morgan Stanley, which has warned of a major sell-off coming up on Wall Street. Is this a likely reality? And what of Wall Street? Is it overbought and the rally nearing a major sell-off?
Well, that's something that not only Morgan Stanley has been talking about for quite a while. Of course, all the friends of the bull market are heavily mocking those bearish comments, but I think they have some logic to them. The question, after two strong quarters in the United States and after significant increases of share prices there, is what else is there now to look forward to? What is there to be optimistic about in the coming coming quarters. And well, after the two strong quarters, there is some likeliness that the positive effect of the Trump tax cuts will eventually wear off in the second half of this year, and that on the other hand, the negative impact of the Trump trade policies on business sentiment, on investment sentiment, will have a stronger effect. And if we also take into consideration that interest rates in the United States are expected to rise further in the course of this year, which makes bond investments and yields on bonds more attractive again, then of course the scenario is there for a stock market to go for a correction. But I also have to say, this has been talked about a lot in recent weeks. It hasn't materialized, at least not in the United States. So predictions are always difficult to make.
Now, switching to country-specific now, how's the latest news around Greece getting yet another rescue fund from the Eurozone impacting the markets in Athens and within the broader regional markets?
Yet another rescue fund, but it is the last segment of the rescues for Greece, and this is a piece of positive news for the country and of course for the whole of the Eurozone. The last installment of the payments has been paid to Greece, and now in future Greece will have to be able to get its refinancing on the markets again, which is positive in terms of the financial system. It's positive in terms of the sovereign bond holders for Greece. Actually, it's not really very positive for people who live in Greece, because they are paying the price for this. Many ordinary Greek taxpayers had to give up a lot of their privileges, their pension outlooks, and the Greeks are paying a high price for it. And the economy, well, it has recovered somewhat, but it's still very weak. Many young Greeks are still leaving the country, and let's not forget the immediate neighbor of Greece, Turkey, is in deep economic trouble, something that Greece also gets to feel. What Greece also gets to feel is the refugee crisis. Many people from Africa and also from the Middle East coming over the Mediterranean to Greece, which is putting a heavy burden on the country. So the outlook for the economy is not really optimistic right now, and we are probably going to talk about Greece also in the future.
We'll see how that goes. Thank you, Conrad, for those updates, and we'll see you again tomorrow.